Ladies and gentlemen, on today's episode of Sign This Please, I am so excited to have a friend of mine for over 25 years, maybe over 30, George?
I think it's probably a little bit
closer to 30, mid-90s, yeah. Right?
Oh, easily.
Somebody I know you are all going to love. This man was at Sports Illustrated for 33 years. 33 plus
almost
years?
34, yeah.
34 years.
33, yeah.
A photo researcher, an editor. He's a huge autograph collector. I mean, this guy I call him autograph collector / chaser. Because this guy knows how to pin people down. But I use that term loosely. His stories are incredible. I know you're going to enjoy it. He's got so many, he's going to have to come back on another episode. That's how crazy it is. One episode will not do this man justice. Folks, welcome to the show, George Amores.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. A lot of memories, and I think back and I jot them down so I can tell you all these wonderful stories that they're just fun, lovely memories that I'll never forget because they were so positive and so it makes you think and say, wow, why can't I do this more often?
Right.
But after a while, it takes a lot out of you, draining, and you have a little conflicts here and there. But overall, it's a very, very positive experience.
Right. So touch base a little bit about how your time at SI kind of, I guess, gets cohesive with the autograph world.
My love for sports is huge, and it's just not, it's all sports. Mostly baseball, leans more to baseball than any other. And working at Sports Illustrated, there would be athletes walking in and out of our building all the time. Obviously, working there, I really shouldn't be asking for autographs, and I never did. But I would make a reservation. I would tell them, hey, if I see you at the ballpark, can you come over and sign it? It would actually work.
Okay.
It worked with Kirby Puckett. It worked with Barry Larkin. It was quite the experience. But my love for sports led me to say, why not try and connect with these guys a little bit and get autographs? People have so many ways of connecting as far as like, oh, I want to catch a foul ball. I want to get a home run ball. I want to get a bat. I want to get gloves, whatever. Any kind of memorabilia, any kind of memory that they can collect and put in their man cave, which I recommend everyone have a man cave into this.
Your
kind
man
of stuff.
cave's got to be pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, it's
got to be pretty
sweet.
sweet.
It's got a ton of stuff in it, and it's from all the years of collecting. And Sports Illustrated taught me more about sports than I could ever imagine. It's not enough just to watch the games and attend them, but see how they go about making the magazine, how they select pictures that run the magazine. These photographers are shooting hundreds and hundreds of pictures at an event, and then we got to narrow that down to like 3 or 4.
But now let's clarify, when these guys we're talking about in the 90s, we're talking before digital.
Yes.
Right? So we're talking about actual film.
It was actual film.
Rolls of film.
And it was a ton of stuff to edit and go through. It was fun. And you're looking at the best sports photography in the world.
Neil Leifer.
Legend.
Right.
Manny Milan, legend. Walter Yost. And it's pronounced Yost.
Yost.
Some people get it wrong. And I worked with Walter on several books. Ron Madra, who was mostly in Wisconsin, shot those great Brewers teams.
Okay.
And worked on a book with him. Beautiful shots. I mean, there's a great picture of Ivan Rodriguez that he caught of him screaming, and his mouth is wide open, and you could see chewing gum in the back of his mouth. And you're like, wow, that's, maybe gross some people out, but it's just like,
but it's the moment.
It's intensity at its finest.
Sure.
And Ron captured that. And there's a ton more pictures. You could look at all these photo books.
So if these guys were doing a book, they would call you and say, hey, George, I need XYZ.
Let me get an assortment of my images, especially this World Series game.
Wow.
And really narrow it down. And it was easy because my sports knowledge, having come from the sports library, I already knew what I needed to do. And if I don't know something, I was able to research it because I worked at the library for a few years. The library consisted of not only books, it consisted of folders, pre-internet, where there were markers who would take newspapers and make it newspaper clippings, which today's kids probably don't know what that is.
They have no idea.
So we would clip,
including my kids,
articles. Yeah, we would clip articles, circle the name that would go into biography. So there was a Derek Jeter folder, a Wade Boggs folder.
Wow.
Why those Yankees came up to mind, I don't know. I'm more of a Mets fan, but Then there were subjects. If there was a team, and it would be a time frame.
Okay.
Our president, Donald Trump, our former president, Donald Trump, we had a folder on him because he owned a USFL football team. So we made a folder of him, and because he was the owner of the team. So that's how I got to know more through SI. And if I was weaker in some sports, like I'll admit, hockey wasn't my strong suit, but working there really amped it up. And we did cover hockey, maybe not as much as some hockey fans would like,
Right.
but it was there for the taking. Be a sponge, and I learned so much from being there, and not just
So I'm going to kind of bounce over to the autograph world. I know from our friendship, I know that you used to go to things like the annual bat dinner. You would go to things like that, and I know that's where you would get some autographs, and you, I guess, would parlay that Sports Illustrated connection to guys that you would see at the events.
Yes.
Give me a great story.
Well, the bat dinner was a free-for-all. When you have the cocktail hour, which is the first thing that they present to you when you walk in, you have a plethora of mostly Hall of Fame greats. And you have to keep your head up. My friends would come over. Who's this? Who's that? I don't have time for that. I have to keep my head up, not look down, keep my head up, and charge. You go right after them, and the late, great Mark Fidrich, boom, right there, had his little supermarket bag with a bag of potato chips in it. And this is a $750 dinner. He's walking around with a bag of potato chips. But he was a regular guy.
Right.
And, okay, I'm done with Mark. Let's, there goes Willie Randolph. There goes Hank Aaron. There goes Warren Spahn. And you got to go. You can't just stand there. And that's what really autograph collecting is about, is the hustle. You got to hustle, and you got to have the right equipment.
Perfect way to put it.
Yeah, you got to hustle, and you got to have the right equipment. A blue Sharpie, fine ballpoint pen for the baseballs. You don't put a Sharpie on a ball. When I see that, it's like it's a sin. It's really a sin. There's so many greats that were at these bat dinners. Bob Gibson, you name it, they were there. And it was such a great charity. One year I went.
Excuse me.
Pete Walker, who I met in the minor leagues with the Mets, became a pro. He's still the pitching coach for the Toronto Blue Jays. His daughter came down with a bone marrow disease, and he needed bat to help him out. And they helped him out with the medical bills for his daughter. And when I heard that, I made sure that I would attend that because I knew Pete for many years. I knew him since his days in AA, and great guy. And he always sees me and greets me with a smile and a hug. And he knew what I did, that I attended that dinner specifically for that.
Sure.
And they were also very willing participants to sign for the fans.
Right.
That always helps. A please and thank you is always the right way to go. Some people just want to approach these guys and ask for the autograph, and that's it.
Jam it in their face.
Jam it in their face, yeah. Talk to the guy. Have something to say.
No doubt.
Ask.
I say it all the time.
Some of these guys are like amazed when I approached them and I talked to them about their college days. They can't believe I knew that they went to Stanford.
Right.
Or Arizona State, whatever it be. One of my good friends who was a GM for the Phillies, Ruben Amaro Jr., I connected with him and just told him, hey, I'm a big Stanford fan. Oh, what a great program. And we connected that way. And whenever I needed tickets, he hooked me up. And it was right there. Go down to the railing as close as possible and get your autographs. Some stadiums are better than others. And you don't scream. You don't yell. You say, please. Get to know the guy's name. Don't yell out their number. Till this day, I see people yelling for their number. It's like, look at the rock, especially now with the internet. It's on your phone.
It's on your phone.
It's
right there.
You're looking at your phone anyways. Which you should be really watching the game, not your phone. And you can find the rosters just like that.
Sure.
So there's so many enhancements, I like to call it, or you could just find things at your fingertips and make you a better collector. And approaching these guys in the right way, excuse me, please, thank you, never bother them when they're eating, stuff like that is the key.
That's always a big no-no. Catching a guy when he's having a meal.
Absolutely.
Let him finish.
Absolutely. Yes.
Let him finish. Wait till he's on his way out.
People would actually bother someone in the bathroom.
Yeah. It's
Very inappropriate and unfortunate that people would actually do that. But speaking of politeness, probably one of my best moments of being polite was with Barry Bonds. Everyone knows Barry Bonds is not too accommodating. So he was coming out of the hotel. Most teams in New York, most of my collecting is done in New York. The Grand Hyatt was the hotel of choice for Major League Baseball players at that time. And Mr. Bonds comes down, and I see him from the top because the Grand Hyatt has an escalator that comes down to part of the lobby, and you can see it. There was about 8 to 10 collectors, and I'm like, okay, not that many people, maybe I have a shot. And as soon as he comes out of the revolving doors, he gets bombarded. He signs for 3 or 4 people, which is quite a bit for him. And I was like, ooh, maybe I have a chance. After he signs his 4th autograph, okay, I'm done. And he's on his way to his limo. I am closer to his limo by the door, by the opening. But I'm not going to jam anything. I'm going to stay away from the side, and I'm not going to try and body block him. Mr. Bond's a pretty big dude. I'm not going to mess with that.
No doubt.
But I am going to use my words. And my words are, Mr. Bonds, could you please sign? And he tilted his head and looked at me and repeated what I said. And I said, yeah. You are so polite. I was like, sure. And he goes, you from New York? And I chuckled because I know what he's getting at. And I just said, born and raised, sir. And as we're talking, he's grabbing my magazine, an SI magazine, SI cover, grabs my Sharpie. I'm like, oh, it's happening. And he signs it, and I say thank you. And he says, no, thank you for being polite. And that really blew me away. He gets in the limo pulls out, and all the collectors just came right over to me because he had stopped signing. He didn't want to sign anymore.
Right.
And they're like, what did you do? What did you say to him? I was just polite.
Please and thank you.
And he
something everybody's parents should.
I tell you, when a guy gives you a thank you back, you made an impact. You sent the right message to him that despite the fact that there's probably a lot more aggressive people, there are some that do it the right way.
Right.
And by him saying thank you, that's what he meant. He's like, thank you for being
Did you get the good autograph?
I got the good autograph.
Okay.
And I also got him when he was on the as a pirate.
The pirate cover.
I don't think he likes signing the giant one because it says, I'm Barry Bonds and you're not, something like that.
Right.
He's like, he's in the
but that pirate cover is fantastic.
Yeah, because he's in full swing.
Yep.
And we all know, like, pretty much like if a lefty swing is almost always beautiful because it heads right to the path running to first base. Right. So, like, you think Barry Bonds, you think Dave Justice. The swings are so beautiful and it goes with the flow. And it was quite a moment. And to have those fellow collectors ask me, what did you do? Like, I really
did you know him?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are other instances where they tell me, did you know that guy? I mean, it's like, no, I just made him laugh. Carlos Pena, who works for MLB Network.
Yep.
Very funny story where he just comes out, and I have a booming voice when I collected. I didn't like it when guys got bombarded because it basically led to them saying no.
Sure.
And he was getting bombarded. And Carlos was a prospect at the time. He had just started his career with the Texas Rangers. And I just yell out, guys, let him breathe. Let him breathe. He's going to sign, but let him breathe. Give him some room.
Sure.
And as soon as I finished saying that, he looked up at me and he smiled. And I said, okay, I think I hit it. I hit it in the right place.
No doubt.
He signed for everybody else. Must have been 5, 6, 7 guys. And then all of a sudden he looks at me, my friend, I'm not going to leave you out. I'm going to make sure you get your autographs. What do you got? And I give him a board. And usually on the boards, the cards would be on photo corners. And he didn't even complain that there were like 8 cards.
Oh, really?
He did all 8 of them. I always put as many as I could. It was a strategy because they're all different cards. I had my favorites. And then if I wanted to trade, I traded the cards that I didn't really care for.
Okay.
I loved Upper Deck. Upper Deck, to me, is one of the finer cards.
Okay.
Now I think they only do hockey. They completely are out of the business. Other than
I think it might be the only license they have.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we shook hands, and I went over and I grabbed his bicep, and I go, "Whoa!" She couldn't believe how big he was. What do you got in there? A bowling ball? And he could not stop laughing. He thought it was the funniest thing. It was just a throwaway line I heard on some TV show.
Sure.
And he got a kick out of it. And I said, it was a pleasure. And he said, pleasure meeting you. Thank you. Because he appreciated it. I took the time to, let this guy breathe.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now give me the story of the guy that he didn't care how polite you were. The guy that was just, I don't even know, maybe you don't want to name the particular person or whatever, but give me the story where it just didn't go the way it should have went.
The one that comes to mind is a hockey player.
Okay.
And, not to mess with hockey players, but this guy was a goalie. So wasn't a goon or a fighter. And I will tell you, goons are the nicest guys in hockey. Most of the hockey guys are nice. They're nicer than most other athletes. And but these fighters were like kittens outside of the ice. They're there to do a job. That's why they are. They're not like that off the ice.
Of course.
They're the nicest guys, gentle giants, let's say.
Okay.
But Felix Potvin, who was a goalie for the Toronto Maple Leafs, did not like people standing in his way, and I was not in his way. But he made a point to bump into me so I can not reach out and hold my item for a sign. I called him out on it, and I was like, I'm saying please, I'm saying excuse me. And he didn't take too kind to it. He didn't know that I was very good friends with one of his teammates, Ken Baumgartner, who was a former Islander, who ironically happens to be a goon after I was saying and maybe goon is too harsh of a word. Enforcer. Enforcer's better.
Tough guy.
Yeah, tough guy. But I think they like enforcer.
Enforcer sounds a little...
even hockey cards that say enforcers on it, like a Ty Domi or a Ken Baumgartner.
Right.
And the Bomber was his nickname. He even recorded some songs. He had a little brief singing career. And I said, hey, Bomber, what's up? Hey, what are you doing? I had a little problem with your goalie. Really? And I went and told him, and I said, I'll have a talk with him. And he goes, listen, I don't want any problems. I was like, no, it's not a problem.
Right.
I'm going to make sure. I'm going to let him know that you're not one of those aggressive collectors.
Right.
You're one of the good dudes. He went up on the bus. He must have said something, because a few minutes later,
he came back out
of the bus, which players, I can tell you right now, do
not come back off the bus
unless it's
or out of the
somebody
tunnel.
they know. Unless they somebody they know. Like, I know David Wells because we've been to concerts, the same concert, same time, and we've talked music. We have the music in common, like Van Halen, Stone Temple Pilots, and we talk about the music. So we have that in common. And all of a sudden, Felix Potvin comes out, and I'm like, oh boy, what was said? What is he going to say? What's coming? I say, what do you got for me?
And there's nobody else around.
No, nobody, a couple, but they're all distracted with other players.
Got it.
And they figure he's gone, he's not coming back.
Sure.
And he goes, we got off on the wrong foot. I apologize. It's okay. Whatever you want to sign. And he looks at me and he goes, I'll sign them all. There's like 4 or 5 cards there.
That's fantastic.
So
you turned a negative into a positive, and it worked out.
Ken was not. I'm sure Ken just told him, listen.
Yeah, do me a favor. I know the guy.
Like and I think you guys probably got off on the wrong foot. And sure enough, and then he actually shook my hand, which I wasn't expecting. I was fine with the autographs.
Yeah, no doubt.
And he went out and shook my hand. I was like, okay, no problem. Thank you, I appreciate it. Nice to see you. And he left, and that was it, and never again. Other guys, the one that really comes to mind is a Montreal Expos pitcher from Japan, Tomaoka. I'm sure many people don't know the name. He was briefly in the major leagues, and he just gave me a dirty look and was nasty. And then right behind him was Pete Shorrock, who used to be a Met.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, what was that all about? Because he'd seen me in the minor leagues and then in the big leagues with the Mets.
Right.
And I was like, I guess he's having a bad day.
Right.
And then that ended.
Which is fine. Have a bad day.
But you don't have to be
right
rude. And
right.
You know what? At the end of the day, if it wasn't for the fans, probably wouldn't be where you are.
Right.
And
Exactly.
a lot of guys forget this, but a lot of guys realize it after their career's over. And
Right.
when their careers are over, I can't tell you how many guys I've seen, they're no longer active and no one pays them any mind. And then they're
Crazy.
like, yes. And not this guy.
Yeah, no.
I know who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm at a
Not
Knick
hiding
game.
from
I'm at
George.
a Knick game. It was against the Mavericks. And he was a former Knick and a former Maverick by the name of Rolando Blackman.
Rolando Blackman. That
He's
boy
on
can
he's on
shoot.
an SI cover with Kansas State.
Okay.
It's a purple uniform. He's taking
Yeah.
a jump shot. He had a nice run in the tournament that year.
Okay.
And he comes up the stairs, and I go, "Hey, Ro, can you sign this for me?" And it was a cover from the Mavericks program, and it had a patch with his uniform number on it. It was a retirement ceremony issue. And he goes,
wow.
"Oh, I love this." It's like, "I'll sign it for you." Boom, we signed it. Game was over. He was coming up the stairs, probably going to the press box. No one knew who he was. No one saw him. He was not in
Where was
uniform.
this?
At Madison Square Garden.
At the Garden.
At the Garden. And he smiled and he was like, "Thanks for remembering me. Thanks for asking." Taps me on the shoulder. It's like, I showed him the SI. He loved it. He's like, "I got to get one of those bad boys. I got one for you, but it's at home." Gave me his details, where to meet him the next morning because the team was leaving the next morning. They stayed over that night. Gave me the details, told me when the bus was leaving to get to the airport. And I was like, so grateful because all I wanted to do, I didn't want any more autographs. I was done.
Right.
And I was like,
So you went
let me
back
get him
there
the-
with
I went back the next
the
next morning
with the SI.
the SI for him to have because he wanted one. He didn't. I'm sure he had one. Probably wanted another one, or maybe he didn't have it.
Maybe he didn't have it, yeah.
And I was more than happy to give it to him because he was always very good to me, and I'll always go
Wow.
the extra mile.
That's
for
awesome.
a guy who's good to me. Being that I worked in Sports Illustrated as a photo editor and researcher, I fancy myself as a photographer, and I would take pictures. I would
Right.
take pictures in the minor leagues, in the major leagues, and I took pictures of a number one prospect by the name of Phil Nevin,
Yep.
and he got sent down after being with the Astros. He got sent down to the minor leagues. He was having issues with his manager at the time. Ironically, Terry Collins, who winds up becoming a Mets manager many years later, and I go to the minor leagues. I took a tour of the minor league teams in Ohio. Toledo, Canton, Akron. Toledo was the Tigers affiliate, and Nevin had been traded from
Yep.
the Astros to the Tigers. And I met him there, and I had my Astros picture. It's early on in his major league career.
Sure.
Early major league at bat at Shea Stadium.
That you had
And
taken.
That I would take it. I was at position perfectly. You see him in his batting stance right at the plate. I pull it out, and he was like, "Whoa, where'd you get this?" And it's like, "This guy." I took it. And he was like, "Wow, I need a copy of that." And I go, "You got it." I happened to make copies of
You
it.
had another copy.
I had it on me. Because I just had a feeling that he was going to like it.
See?
And then
That's
I go,
what I mean.
"You're a Raiders fan, right?" "Yeah, how do you know?" "I just know because I read up on these guys. I want to have something else to talk about.
Sure.
It shouldn't always be about the autograph because guess what? You give them a little more, they're going to give you a little more. That's
Of
how I
course.
look at it. I was like, look what I got. There were still VCRs and VSH tapes being used, and SI had a plethora of that stuff that they were throwing out. And I had a couple of Raiders tapes for him.
No
So
way.
basically, I'm gifting him so many things at once, and he could not have been more grateful. Whenever I make it back, I want to see you in New York. And sure enough, we did. I would pick him up from the hotel and take him back from the stadium and take him back to the hotel. We would hang out. He still had his attitude about him. He's a very confident, cocky guy.
Okay.
But I made sure I'd straighten that out. I'm not going to go into details with that. But maybe behind the scenes we'll talk about that. It was really quite funny. And one of his teammates, fortunately and unfortunately, I heard the whole thing. But it wasn't bad because I haven't seen him in quite a while, but I'm sure if we reconnect, it'll be a nice thing. And he was very appreciative. And that goes a long way because you know what? someone else tells them.
There's
"Hey,
not a lot
look
of
this guy
guys.
up."
There's not a lot of guys that are doing it that way.
No,
Myself included. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I'm walking up to a guy and I've done homework on a guy.
Yeah,
Right. I might know where he went to college, or I might know what teams he played for in the past, or whatever. But literally coming up with, knowing that a guy's a fan of another team.
I have a fact.
Things like that are just.
I have a knack for research. I love doing the research. I love knowing these things. I mean, now people will be like, "You know so much. How do you know?" I was like, "If I don't
like
know
you said,
something,
now
I'll
it's
find
easy.
out." Yeah, at the fingertips.
Right, it's at your fingertips.
Like, it's like, how do you know all this stuff?
Yeah, but you were doing this 25 years ago.
Yes.
Longer.
Over 30 years of collecting autographs. I collected autographs longer than my SI career. And it frustrates me when I'm stopped and don't know something. And I'm like, I'm determined to find out.
Right.
And determined to know. Because I could share that with my son. I could share that with my friends like I'm doing here today. And I get a kick out of it. Knowledge is power.
No doubt.
And it's
like I said, you've taken it to a complete other level. You're looking down at the rest of us collectors, and people should be listening to the stories and going, you know what, that's not a bad idea. Let me try it.
Politeness and time.
We always say that.
Putting in the time. And when I think of time, I think of Don Mattingly. I used to wait before the Yankees got those championship years, and unfortunately, Mattingly wasn't part of the championship years. Mm-hmm. He left the year before. I would wait outside Yankee Stadium and wait and wait and wait. All the players would come out of the press gate, head to the parking lot, players' parking lot, and everyone was pretty much gone. And my friend and I were waiting. It's also good to wait because you avoid all the traffic.
Of course.
So much traffic out there. And I tell my friend goes, let's go, let's get out of here. I was like, no, let's wait a little bit more.
There's one more guy that hasn't come out yet.
But everybody's out. Nope, not everybody.
Not everybody.
I said, well, who's left? Don Mattingly. And I'm not even a Yankee fan. My friend's a big Yankee fan, but I love baseball. So when I go to Yankee Stadium, I'm there for the baseball. I'm not there rooting for the Yankees unless there's an individual that I really like. I'll root for. If I saw you in the minor leagues, I'd probably like you.
Right.
Because I knew you win. And Mattingly wasn't one of those, but
kind of hard not to like Donnie.
There are just guys that you just
everybody.
Dislike.
I don't care what team you root for. You love Don Mattingly.
Even though he wore that uniform, he was more than okay in my book.
No doubt.
So my friend goes, "Are you sure?" It's like, "I'm sure." It's checked off on the list that's up here, and I know he didn't come out. Sure enough, 5 minutes after I said that, he walks out, and Donnie had a little unique walk. Just like he ran, with his head bobbing forward. If you look at the videotapes and you see him, that's how he would run. That's the way he walked.
Right.
And he had a hoodie on. And he had his little kids with him. His kids were very young at the time. And he's walking towards the car. And I don't yell. I don't want anyone else knowing.
Yeah, no doubt.
But there was no one else really around.
Right.
The place was empty, but it was just, I'm programmed to lower my voice. I'm programmed to if I don't want to call out a guy, I'll do the initials. I saw Justin Tuck once, JT. He looked up, he said hello. No one knew who he was. And
kind of hard to believe Justin Tuck's a pretty decent-sized dude.
Yes, but this was right outside Radio City Music Hall. Everyone was paying attention to crossing the street.
Sure.
And, but anyway, so back to Mattingly. He comes out, and I said, Mr. Mattingly, could you sign? And he goes, let me get the car, and I'll pull right up. Now, most people would think, oh, yeah, he's going to pull up, right? Not Donnie. He's a special cat.
Yeah, no doubt.
Got in his car with his kids, pulled right up. What do you got, guys?
That's awesome.
Hoodie on the whole time.
I'm glad you actually brought up Donnie because I'll give you one of my Don Mattingly stories. So again, my time at Steiner, right? I've done probably 3 or 4 signings with Don.
Nice.
When he was with the Yankees.
Okay. Oh, so he was still active.
No. This is later. This is, he's managing at the time.
Oh, okay.
So I'm at his apartment, and we're knocking out some autographs, and Don's he's from Indiana.
Yes.
Right? He's a country boy.
Yes.
And he's got CMT music station. He's got CMT station on the television. So we're listening to country music.
Right.
And at the time, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a country music guy.
Right.
Right? So I said, Don, I I know it's your place, but we got to listen to country music the whole time. And he goes, come on, Paul, you don't like this stuff? This is great stuff.
Yeah.
Sure enough, right? We had to come back the next day. He goes, Paul, listen, I got to go. He goes, do me a favor, leave all the stuff here, come back tomorrow morning at X time.
Okay.
Not a problem. Whatever you tell me to do. I'll let Brandon know, and I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll knock the rest of it out. We come back, and he's got the TV on even louder. So he's busting my chops. Whatever.
Of course.
So
that's how you know he's a cool guy.
absolutely, one of the best.
Yeah.
I mean, just one of the best. So fast forward. So we do that, whatever, and I'm on my way. Fast forward to 2021.
Okay.
2021.
Right.
2022. He is coaching with Miami.
Right, the Marlins, yeah.
I am on a trip with two of my kids to go to the College World Series. A kid that I coached, played with one of my sons, is playing for Virginia. We're on a trip.
Nice.
So we fly into Chicago, say, hey, we're here. We're going to rent a car at Chicago and drive to Nebraska. We're going to stay overnight. We're going to go to a Cubs game.
Okay.
Right? That's my kids and I, that's kind of our thing.
Yeah, if you're close.
Right.
Why not?
So why not? So we go to the Cubs game, and we get there early. We walk in. We're looking around, and I'm loving what we're seeing. Next thing you know, one of my kids goes, Dad, is that Don Mattingly at first? Like, we're watching batting practice. And I looked down, I went, oh, my God, I forgot Donnie was coaching.
Right. That happens to me, too.
And Donnie's down there taking infield at first base. He's, he's fielding ground balls, and he's whatever. And I was like, all right. So I say to the security guard, we wiggle our way down to the dugout. And at this time, he's now thrown the glove in the dugout, and he's now behind the batting cage.
Okay.
And he's watching guys hit and whatever. So he comes by eventually, and I'm literally telling the security guard, just give me 2 minutes. I'm not going to sit here and get in anybody's way. I'm not going to be a pest. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, Donnie finally comes walking by, and there's two women in front of me that get his attention, and I don't know if he knew him or not, but so now Donnie's right there. And he looks at me, turns, stops. I go, Donnie, it's Paul from Steiner. And he goes, I knew it.
You remember?
He goes, I couldn't remember the name, but oh my God, how you doing? Ba, ba, ba. And
isn't that a great feeling? Because you've obviously connected with him.
Absolutely.
And he didn't forget. Absolutely. And I will tell you, Wrigley is truly the friendly confines. Because when you get down there that close, and you could practically walk into the visitors' dugout. I was there for the Pirates, and they saw me with my little son. I think he was probably about 6 at the time. And I'm walking in and say, would you like to go to batting practice? Go to batting practice.
Go to batting practice.
Yeah, have your son come down for batting practice. You sure? I can come with him.
This was somebody from the Cubs or the Pirates?
An usher.
Really?
An usher. And because they saw how small my kid was. And sure. Not only does he go all the way down and next to the dugout, my son's behind the batting cage.
On the field?
On the field.
That's phenomenal.
With a bunch of other kids.
That's crazy.
And ironically, Clint Hurdle was still the manager there. Obviously a former Met.
Yeah.
And I knew Clint. And he said, hey, what are you doing here? I was like, I came to see the friendly confines. That it is. My son's right there. Get out of here. And he went right over to my son, signed a couple of cards for him. And my son had gotten one of his first few autographs.
I was going to say, was that his first autograph?
It was close. Actually, I think his first autograph was probably Little Italy, where the Yankees had a fan fest, and it was Sparky Lyle. So Sparky Lyle was there. Doc Gooden was there.
That's awesome.
He's met Mookie Wilson. His favorite, of course, is Brandon Nimmo. Nimmo took a picture with him.
Okay.
And then that picture is signed and in his room.
Nimmo's a lot of favorites right now.
Oh, yes. And he's
a lot of Met fan favorites right now.
He is beyond fan friendly. He's just really a great guy. And I'm not just saying that because he signs autographs. He takes the time to talk to you. And every time he sees me, he'll ask, how's your son doing? How's your son doing?
That's fantastic.
He remembered the picture. He remembered
awesome.
me lifting my son up to get him close to the wall. That was close to Nimmo, so you take a picture.
How long ago was that?
George was at 4, so about 10 years now.
10 years now.
Yeah, because he's been in the big leagues, I think, almost 11, I think, or 9 or something like that.
Has it been that long?
Yeah. Hey, time flies.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Baseball and a baseball life goes pretty fast.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's why these guys, I love it when these guys are humbled. And they realize, those were the days. And even Keith Hernandez has said, I could have been nicer. I've heard him in the broadcast. This year, he said in the broadcast, I wish I had been nicer. I wish I had signed
to the fans?
that autograph. Yeah. Which surprised me because he's still not the friendliest. But
Interesting.
there are times you could talk to him. I tease him. I've teased him. I have a beautiful black and white picture that he signed for me. And he's sliding into third base at the old vet in Philly. And it was clearly a triple. And I teased him because he wasn't the fastest guy.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I said, look at you legging out a triple. Not many of those in your career. And he goes, I had a few. And so I was just nudging him a little bit. But see, those are things that I think are cool to do because
of course,
I'm not just talking about sign this and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Even though the name of the podcast is Sign This Please, it shouldn't be the only thing you say to these guys because then it's just like, you're only in it because you want my autograph.
Perfect example, just along those same lines. I finally get to meet Chris Sabo recently.
Oh, you've never met Chris Sabo?
Big Reds fan. I finally meet Sabo. I get over to him and I go, Chris, same barber.
Oh, yes.
And we literally have the exact same haircut.
Yes, same dude.
He starts giggling, chuckling. Next thing you know, we're talking for 5 minutes.
He got a ride from me. One day.
Did he really?
Yeah, well, Shea Stadium wasn't the best for flagging down cabs. I don't know why they never arranged that stadium. Maybe a little bit better now, unfortunately facing what was the junkyards. Maybe a little bit now, plethora of Uber cars.
Right.
But not the greatest idea because the police are out there. Because ever since 9/11, there's really a lot of heightened security, so they don't like seeing cars hanging out and just sitting there. But they're there to pick up people.
Sure.
So it's hard. For some reason, Shea Stadium / Citi Field is hard to get a cab. And he comes out of the press gate and he's wandering. I don't know if someone was supposed to pick him up and stood him up. And I said, hey, Chris, you need a ride to the hotel? He's like, yeah, I do, but I'm waiting for a ride. I was supposed to get a ride and they're not here. I said, well, if your ride doesn't come, we're heading that way. No, we're not. We just want to give you a ride. But I didn't say that to him, obviously. And he's cold. It was definitely later in the season.
Okay.
He's a little chilly. He's got his denim shirt on, but he's feeling the cold. I said, well, let me know if you're not getting your ride. I'll be more than happy to take you. About 15 minutes pass, and he's just like done.
Right.
He's totally impatient by that point. I said, hey, can I get that ride from you? I said, yeah, sure. Gave him the ride. And then he started noticing we were taking the long route because my friend who was driving wanted to talk to him a little bit more. So we took the long route to the Grand Hyatt, and he was hinting like, hey, I don't recognize this. I said, Chris, you're safe with us. Don't worry. We're taking the long route because we want to talk to you some more. And he started laughing, and he goes, okay, as long as I get to the hotel. I was like, Chris, we're not going to do anything stupid.
Crazy.
We're not the New Yorkers you hear about, so we're going to get you to the hotel safe and sound, and you'll be fine. And once we did, he was so grateful, gave us a hug, which I didn't expect. Chris is a very quiet guy, not as outgoing. But he was very happy that we had to talk. We were talking about all sorts of things.
Right.
Baseball related mostly. And he got a kick out of it, and we had a kick out of it. We never thought,
That's awesome.
Rookie of the year and all.
Yeah, no doubt.
It was good. But the hair.
Oh, absolutely.
The hair joke is really good.
He looked at me and he was like, yeah, see? It's literally the same exact thing.
Hair. Yeah, he still has
no
it.
doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Before we wrap up, give me your favorite autograph in your collection.
There's so many to narrow down, and it's just, and even
all right, give me top
about
3.
Sport. Even it doesn't always have to be about sport.
No,
there are musicians that I looked up to,
sure,
and enjoyed getting the autographs. Roger Daltrey of The Who, the lead singer of The Who.
Okay.
At first, questioned if I was a fan, so I just decided to sing to him. Won't Get Fooled Again, and he was cracking up, making someone laugh. Who you look up to, and appreciate the fine work they do. Pretty special. It's a nice feeling. So you got a kick out of that. Nolan Ryan would be one of my all-time favorites. During his last year in the major leagues, he was basically doing his goodbye tour, and he would just come out of the hotel, look down at everyone's feet to see the shoes, and that's how he would know if you were getting a duplicate autograph. He only wanted to sign one for each of you.
Really?
One apiece. And if you saw the same shoes he knew, he would do that.
That's a little different.
Yes. George Brett in spring training would not a great signer. Wasn't very happy about signing autographs. And in spring training he would sign and he'd take the Sharpie and mark your wrist with two
way.
Oh yeah. That way he knew he got you. So he did that about 9 different times. I did not catch him, but I've caught him before. Never really a friendly experience, but with some guys you just got to say, hey, I got him.
Right.
That's it. You know. Going back to the musician route, Nancy Wilson of Heart. Okay. She was wonderful. Musicians, I love because it's kind of out of my realm because I'm more of a sports guy. Mm-hmm. But then to meet an artist like Stone Temple Pilots before the great Scott Weiland passed away, I talked to him about how much I can't wait to see what else he's coming out with. So I'd say Scott was definitely a nice autograph to have. Memorable now that he's gone, and they've had already 2 or 3 other lead singers. Right. And the second one passed, who was with Linkin Park, Chester Bennington.
Yeah. That was a couple of years ago. Yeah. That was recently.
Yeah. So that probably the musicians I mentioned simply because I don't do that often. So it's an extra
And are
special.
they prominent in the man cave?
Oh, yeah, of course. Because I'm like, oh, come on. It's like, it's not a regular thing, whereas basketball, I mean, some would say, why isn't Michael Jordan one of your favorites? I can't say he's not.
Do you have a Jordan piece?
I have a Michael Jordan piece right outside Madison Square Garden after morning shoot around. And right after Michael Jordan.
No.
Because I'm quick. I like to pride myself that I'm quick. Once I was done with Mr. Jordan, here comes Scottie Pippen. And I nod Pippen. And they're both Hall of Famers.
What are they on? What'd you get them on?
Photos.
Okay.
Photos. Actually, the Michael Jordan one is on a photo, which is very unique because it was the prototype to SI for Kids. So it wasn't the actual cover of SI. It was one of the ones that were thinking of being the cover. So that's quite a unique piece because no one else has that.
I was going to say.
No one else has
We're talking 101 here.
You know what? It was going to go in the circular bin, also known as garbage. But it was a photo that was pristine, nothing wrong with it. It was just, for lack of a better word, a reject.
Okay.
And they went with a different cover. So, but it was memorable because it happened so quickly. And that's, like I said, it goes back to politeness, but time.
Well, like I said, when I introduced you, you're not just you're a chaser.
Yeah.
Not a chaser is not, it sounds
believe
like
me, I'm not offended because I would be offended by stalker. Stalking would offend me.
I'm kind of thinking of it as, I'm kind of thinking, a chaser's not the right word. But you always knew the avenue to take to get to who you needed to get to.
Yes. Yes.
Where at the stadium, where at the arena, where those little
and it wasn't just ball players; it was also announcers. Because you got to remember, some of these announcers are Hall of Famers as well.
Of course,
like a Bob Murphy, who I am known to imitate his voice, and I crack people up with his imitation. It was a pleasure meeting him, taking a picture with him, and I'm like a foot taller than him. This is a tiny guy. I am of Ecuadorian descent, and the Dodgers had an Ecuadorian broadcaster by the name of Jaime Jarin, and he is in the Hall of Fame.
Okay,
and he helped Fernando Valenzuela along the way with the translating.
Okay.
And not many people know who he is, but I do. And everyone just assumed, well, Fernando's Mexican. That guy next to him translating must be Mexican too. Wrong. He was Ecuadorian, and it was nice to see someone in baseball that's Ecuadorian like myself. And I was able to talk to him and I don't know. I may have a picture with him. I can't recall. So if I don't recall, it's probably because it's a long time ago and I don't see it very often in my collection, flipping through my binders. But yeah, that's pretty special.
That's
pretty
awesome.
Unique. Yeah.
Well, listen, we're going to wrap this up. There is no question in my mind that you will be back. Oh. Because I know there are just
having me. This is a lot of fun,
stories.
and jotting down this list. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm not going to get through all this, And I know there's a lot in that memory bank of mine.
I'm
where
sure
I can
there
just
is.
jot down and
We didn't even get to touch base on your Sports Illustrated life, which I think is just as amazing as the collection.
It was a wonderful run. I wish I was still there. Obviously, they've gone into a different direction and a different world, and that's fine. And I hope it continues to be the iconic brand that it is.
Right.
And it'll never be like it used to be, because what is like it used to be? Everything changes.
Sure.
Everything.
Sure. Well, anyway, for everybody listening, I hope it's millions of you. I hope the world of collecting autographs just continues to blossom in your life. I hope these stories were worth it for you. I hope you learned something. And again, when you get that opportunity to meet that famous person, that athlete, that musician, whoever it is, that actor or actress, right? You don't just go up to them like George mentioned and just jam something in their face. Be polite, be kind, have something intelligent to say, and be polite and just ask, sign this, please. Thank you for tuning in. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.